where we'll be discussing real estate. I pray, dear Lord, that information will be of benefit to everyone. And I pray that everything that we've done here will be done to your honor and to your glory. We thank you for inspiring your daughter, your child, Sister Wendy, to come and give us this valuable information that we need at this critical time. We pray, dear Lord, that you will guide her and protect her and bless everyone who is on this platform and who will watch after on YouTube. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. So, as I said, we have Miss Wendy. She's a realtor. So, Wendy, I'm going to turn over to you to introduce yourself and just give the audience a little history of how long you have been in the real estate business and which company you're currently with. You can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Wendy Jamieson. I am a licensed realtor in the province of New Brunswick. It's a pleasure this evening to be with you, to be speaking to you on this medium. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a Jamaican. I migrated to Canada in 2009. And whilst in Jamaica, I was a fashion designer. I did that for 16 years. Very passionate about my job. I was and still is also a member of the Porous SDA Church. I came to Canada. When I came to Canada, I realized I could not make a living from sewing clothes. So I later took on a role as a kitchen and bathroom designer. I lived in Ontario for 10 years. And in 2020, I saw an opportunity to expand our real estate portfolio. So I took a leap of faith, quit my full-time job, and then moved to New Brunswick. I have a wealth of knowledge about construction, and with my background in design, I decided to pursue a career in real estate. I obtained my license in 2023, and this has become my new passion. I'm also a member of the Kodiak Woodworking Association, where I make my own furniture pieces. I'm a very hands-on person. And that's a little bit about me. But first of all, I just want to thank God for the opportunity to speak this evening. And I also want to thank Brother Lawrence for the invite. I certainly hope that someone can learn something from me this evening, or your knowledge will be increased, and in the end, God will be glorified. So I will be talking this evening about my role as a realtor. I'll be also talking about the finances. Since this is a financial series, I'll also be talking about the opportunities or the financial freedom that can arise from real estate investing. And as 3 John 1 verse 2 says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." Who is a realtor? A realtor is a person employed to trade in real estate. We don't give legal advice, but I can tell you that every document we write and a client put their signature on, those documents become legally binding. It is enforceable by law, so we don't take our job lightly. My responsibilities. We provide present need, future need, representation, and support to our clients. We also the person who guides and help you through the process of buying and selling. My job also is to ensure that my buyer gets a property that suits their need and that my seller gets the best deal for their property. And so during this process, we sometimes become a friend, a counselor, a therapist, a confidant. And this is truly a very emotional process because it may be foreign to some people. It can be also complicated. It can be scary, especially if it's your first transaction. And rightly so, because buying a house or a property may be the biggest or most expensive transaction you've ever done in your entire lifetime. Likewise, someone may own a home or a property or properties, but they've never sold a property before. This is why you need the professionals to guide you through the process. We are sworn to legal professionalism, honesty, and our loyalty encompasses all our other obligations. I will be going through 3 topics this evening. The buying process, the selling process, and investing in land. Before we move on to that, why you choose a realtor? Whether you're ready to buy or sell or invest, it's very important to get quality advice from a real estate professional. A realtor will negotiate to save you money. They'll advocate for you and protect you from legal fees. If you're buying a car, you go to a car dealer, and so they explain the advantages and disadvantages of the car, the different features, the different benefits of the vehicle. Likewise, so if you're gonna make such an investment, you should find a realtor to assist you in conducting your real estate transaction. And so this evening, I'm going to touch on the buying process, the selling process, and one of my favorite, investing in land. I will take a break after each category, and I will answer questions if you have any after each category. What is the first step? You never know your potential or if you may qualify for a mortgage. So making the first step is to, which is to talk to a bank or a mortgage broker about pre-approval, know what price range you can afford. It's like going to buy a car, but you don't know what the car, what your financial situation is, if you can afford that car. It's the same scenario. Get your finances in order. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away, but make a plan, work towards that plan. Talk to your realtor. We are more than happy to start looking at properties and get you inspired. Sometimes it's that inspiration that actually drives you to want to pursue buying a property even more. Start looking what you want, look at what you want in a home, how you can improve it. And every time you walk into a house or an investment property, you see something that you can change. This is how you start, whether liking something or you start the process of elimination. And I always tell my clients that after pre-approval and you find a property, this is the time when you try to live as minimal as possible because you don't know when your situation may change. You may qualify for a mortgage today and the situation changes by next week. So I always say, if this is your true dream, try and limit yourself, live as minimal as possible. And so we get into the buying process and what to expect. I've oftentimes hear this question, when is the best time to buy? Is this a good time? What is the market like now? And I always say the best time to buy is now. Never wait until the market changes, house prices changes. You never know what contributing factor there may be. So the best time is always now. Buying a property is one of the biggest financial investment or financial decision that you will make in your entire lifetime. And it can be a very rewarding financial decision also. If you have the option to stop paying rent, which in essence, paying rent is paying someone else's mortgage. If you have that option to stop paying rent and pay your own, which one would you choose? I can tell you that after paying rent for 2 years, you have gained nothing or haven't gained much. Paying your mortgage for 2 years, you would have built equity in that home. And not everyone is going to be able to buy a home. And everybody's situation is different. Sometimes it may be cheaper to rent than to buy, depending on your lifestyle, depending on your circumstances. But here we are. Together, we can either achieve financial success or we can gain the knowledge to get you on track to achieve. And what to look for when buying a house. A house or a property may not have all your must-haves. So you walk into a house and you know what you want, you know what your lifestyle is. It may not have all of those must-haves, but if you choose to buy that house, you can afford it. If you buy it, over a time, you can put in those must-haves. And this becomes the primary property that you've always wanted. This may not be your first choice either. This could be an investment opportunity to get you to your ideal home. Renovate it as you go, fix it, make it your own, or you can renovate and this property will now take you to your ideal home that you want to be. Never go for a house that you cannot afford. So that's why we always encourage to do a pre-approval. You may find a house, you can't afford it, but you've stretched your limit and you get that house. You never want to be house poor. House poor is what I always say. You don't want to buy a house and you cannot buy food or you cannot take care of your family or you cannot pay the bills. It's not just about buying that house. And that's why getting pre-approved is so important. It is not wise also to offer over what a house is worth. That's what we call over asking. There is a house on the market and it's already overpriced. It's never a good decision to offer over on that property. You may have an accepted offer because the seller might like the price, but if you are getting a mortgage, there is also an appraisal that comes with that mortgage. So you find a house, you like it, and you put in an offer, you get it accepted. But then when it's time to close on your mortgage on your property, an appraiser comes in and says, this house is not worth what it is, what the price you're paying for it. So now you either have to walk away or you now have to put up additional funds to cover that overage amount. And this is something that a situation that nobody wants to be in. It sometimes takes your family, your friends to get involved, your savings, your last bit savings, just to be in a house that you could not afford in the first place. So we talk about pricing, fair market price. As real estate professionals, we do what is called a CMA, a comparative market analysis. A comparative marketing analysis is a method that we use to estimate the value of a property by gathering data from similar properties in the area. They are either currently listed or sold and arrive at a price. So this is how we give an estimate of what we think a house worth. And this helps the buyer to understand if they're getting a good deal. It also helps the seller in listing their property for a fair listing price. This is a very competitive market. And so if a buyer or seller understand what price they are competing against, it gets them in a better mindset. And of course, it makes our job as a realtor much easier. Rules of value. There is objective value and there is subjective value. Objective value depends on the property's value, and it's dependent on the cost of creating this property, or how much would it cost to build it. And I like to call this the realistic value, because sometimes it's just in our minds that we think that this house values this much and I should pay this much for it. It's just something that we create in our mind. And then we have subjective value. Creates in the mind of the seller, but ultimately, sometimes it comes down to the price a seller or a buyer wants to pay for this property, regardless of the cost to develop it. So a buyer or a seller, a buyer will say, I like this property. It has everything I want. It has everything I dream of. But the property does not value the asking price. And so they want it anyway. So this is what we call subjective value. So you're paying basically more for a property than the cost it would cost. It would cost to build or to develop this property. And so I've reached to the end of my buying process. And if you have any questions, I'll take questions now. If not, I will just move on. Okay, since we don't have any questions, I'll just move on. The selling process. The selling process typically begins with preparation. Preparation is what we always encourage our clients. Declutter, repaint, evaluate the overall conditions, and make necessary repairs. This is also a good time to call your realtor so we can research and assist in pricing by conducting a CMA. I always say, think about, just walk into your house and think that it's not yours. What would you be expecting if you walk in a house that is on the market for sale? How does it present itself? The property, after we've done a CMA, the property is now ready to be marketed through listing across all mediums. After we've listed the property, you may receive an offer, and offers comes with or without contingency. Contingencies are what we refer to as what the buyer wants from this house, what extra they want, what they expect the seller to do. After we've looked at the offer, we've looked at all the contingencies, there are three options. The offer is either accepted, rejected, or it is countered. If you accept an offer as a seller, then the buyer meets all your requests. You're satisfied with this offer. You can reject an offer flat out because this person has been is not being realistic, or what they're offering, this is not something that I would accept. And we can counter. This is negotiating. When we counter, we go back, we send back a message to the buyer to say that we want this. How about, I can't get everything I want, but how about if we come to an agreement and we negotiate? During this process, there is always a timeline. And so we work with this timeline or a deadline for this offer to be either accepted, rejected, or countered. If the seller accepts this offer, conditions are met, and it's now firm. Firm is when, as all the conditions are met on that offer, everything that seller wants and the buyer negotiated, or when all of these conditions are met and the offer becomes firm, the realtor now puts a sold sign on that listing. This is firm, and so nobody else can come and make an offer on this property because this offer is firm. Now we start working on the conditions. The conditions, we do inspection, we do financing, we do insurance, and these are just some of the conditions that are to be met. When those are met, then your deal is firm and the sale moves to closing, or looking towards the closing date. The seller looks forward to the closing date. The buyer looks forward to the closing date. The lawyer, during this time, all the legal paperwork and searches are done and signatures are captured. by the seller's lawyer and the buyer's lawyer, and the seller moves out on closing date, and they receive their payment. Ownership is transferred. The seller gets the money that they want, and the seller is now happy. The buyer is now happy. So the buyer has moved into their dream home. Reasons for selling. Selling your home can be a good financial decision, whether it's downsizing or reinvesting. And some reasons for selling. Lifestyle change. Your family grows, or you are more financially stable and you need an upgrade. Your lifestyle changes. So now I need something different. You're an empty nester. Your children moves out. Now it's time to maybe downsize, maybe get a condo or a townhouse. So now I don't have to do all the manual labor. I don't have to worry about cutting the lawn or doing snow. Another reason is for financial stability. Depending on the equity of your property, on the equity that's in your home or your property, this is a way to plan for retirement or even to pay off some debts. Another reason is for cash flow and just merely more money in your hands. You tired of living paycheck to paycheck. So this is just some financial freedom. Some people sell to take advantage of lower interest rate. You sell and then sell when interest rate is lower, and then you can buy your dream home, or you can also refinance that property. You can also sell one property and buy two. So from a single family, you can buy a duplex or a triplex. You can live in one side of the property and rent another. That's additional cash flow for you. So financially, this is very rewarding. And as I mentioned before, this can be a very overwhelming or stressful decision. Do not stress. And I know it's much easier said than done. The process can be overwhelming, and this is why you need a professional to assist you and to guide you through the process, prepare you to achieve your success. And you are the boss, really. You are in control. Every decision is made by you. A realtor merely works for you. A realtor merely guides you to making these decisions, but the ultimate decision is yours. Then we move on to investing in land. And this is, let me take a break here, and does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Wendy. I got one question.
Okay.
The question is, first I want to know if they're selling, if they have to get a realtor if they're selling their property.
No, You can sell your property on your own. You can do all the work on your own. But as I said before, why, if you can get a professional to help you, to guide you through this process, why wouldn't you go for that option? There are so many mishaps and mistakes that I've seen happen by people trying to sell their own property. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you get out good, but sometimes there are things that are missed. There are sometimes that are opportunities that are missed. And sometimes you look back and say, if I had a realtor, would this have happened? So yes, you can sell your property on your own.
Could you expound, good afternoon
Good
first.
afternoon.
Could you expound on those mistakes that someone would make if they wouldn't use a realtor to sell a property?
Okay. So prices aren't negotiated well. And in the beginning, I said, every document that you sign, they are legally binding. These, you might want to sell your home by yourself. You find a buyer, and the buyer decides to pay you, for whatever reason, how much you want. But is it how much your house is worth? The legal repercussions. A buyer might say, we agreed to pay, we agreed that you will sell me your house for $300,000. But on the day of closing, then the buyer cannot come up with that $300,000. What happens then? Then you are going back to your original position. With a realtor, that buyer is being held accountable. And now there are legal actions that you can take to hold this buyer accountable.
So does that mean that on my own, I can make documents that can legally bind a buyer? That only can be done by a realtor? Is that what you're basically saying?
No, I'm not saying that, because you can go to a lawyer and you can have those documents, you can have somebody draw up those documents as well. But how much does a lawyer is going to do for you? A lawyer is going to, I'm not speaking from a legal perspective, but the lawyer does their legal work. A realtor who is trained to sell and negotiate in real estate, this person now helps you with the negotiating process. A lawyer does their legal thing. I don't know if they negotiate.
Okay, at least on my next question, the CMA comparative market analysis, how do you guys actually what's the process for that? Is it like a software? Is it something you have to go to school for, or how do you actually determine the value of a property with that specific process?
It's a software. It's a software, and a software, it doesn't give you all the criterias. Sometimes it might not be apples for apples. There is something that on a property that you want that does not appears on a CMA. So then we look at the value of creating that particular. So for example, a finished basement, a garage, we take into consideration the cost to finish to complete those areas. And so we add and subtract, and that's how we sometimes arrive at a price.
Is the software free? Or do I have to pay the price for it?
Sorry?
Is the software free?
Nothing is free. And if anything, most things that are free, um, I wouldn't say trust it if it's free.
So is it just one specific software or is it multiple softwares that can do the same thing?
There are different softwares that can do the same thing. And an appraiser may use a different software, realtors may use a different software. It all depends.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Oh, hi, Wendy.
Hi.
It's before you continue. So as you mentioned with the appraiser, so if somebody get a realtor in terms of selling their property, would they also need to get a appraiser with that, or does that come with getting the realtor?
So we are not appraisers. We're realtors. We use a similar system as an appraiser, but we will do a CMA and arrive at a price for a property. But the bank may decide that I want my own assessment. And so the bank go out and they do their own appraisal. So yes, we arrive at a price, but in the end, if the bank decides that I need my own appraisal, I need to know exactly how you arrive at this price, they will do their own appraisal. Okay, so now we get into investing in land. And let's look at the type of land use. This could be for residential purposes, for commercial purposes, agricultural purposes, industrial purposes. So these are like different reasons, different types of investment that you can make in land. Why should you invest in land? Buying land is sometimes overlooked or oftentimes overlooked. But I can tell you that this is a very viable pathway to economic growth. Or just building generational wealth, or for even long-term investment. Sometimes we look at our grandchild or a child and we think about, I'm just gonna, if I can afford it, I'm gonna invest in a piece of land for my child or for my grandchild. The returns are incredible. This could be your down payment for when you're ready to buy or build your first home. Most of the time, a bank, it is easier to get a mortgage to build if you have your own land than for the bank or a mortgage broker to fund you to buy a land and to build your home. So this is a gateway to having that first piece of land or your first down payment for your home. The deals are easy to find. Sometimes it's a neighbor has a piece of land, conversation, you're having conversation, this comes up, and so you you grasp that opportunity to buy this piece of land. Sometimes you're driving by and you like this area, you like a particular area, and there is a piece of land for sale. Or you see a piece of land somebody's standing outside and you want to stop and talk to them. So the deals are very easy to find. The deals can be way cheaper to fund, because sometimes the land I know can be cheaper. There is very little competition. Nobody's gonna have a bidding war over a piece of land. So nobody really competes to buy land unless it's in an area where it's a developing area, and every developer wants a piece of that land, excuse me. The property taxes are cheaper. It is passive income. You make money by literally doing nothing for that land, nothing with that land. You buy a piece of land, and if it is, you don't have to do much or any maintenance on it. And it appreciates in the coming years. You will be surprised to see how that appreciates. It never depreciates or rots. Land will never, you'll never see a piece of land. It's tangible, yes, but you will never see it like disappear. It is tangible, yes, it will never disappear like your stocks. So your stocks, it fluctuates, it goes up, it goes down. This will never happen with land. And sometimes you'll have a piece of land and you will, depending on what you bought it for, you'll sometimes double that investment within 2 years, within 3 years. Your stocks, yes, it may happen, but there is also the risk. There is not much risk with land. It can be used as collateral for a loan. This is a part of your network, so this can be a viable option. It's low maintenance. You don't have to do anything up to it. If it's treed, then you do nothing to it. If it has grass on it or if it's maintained, then you might have to cut the grass maybe 2 or 3 times per year, but you don't have to do much to it. It can't be stolen. It will never disappear. Nobody will ever come and say, oh, I can't find my piece of land. Where did it go? And when I mention about generational wealth, think about, your dream home. Think about your children, your grandchildren, a niece, a nephew, an aunt, a grandmother. This is something that can generate multi-generational wealth. And then we get to, where should you buy land? Where do you look for land? Land is everywhere in New Brunswick. We look for land close to a city or a town. When the city is filled, when there's no more space to build any more house, then what happens? There is the spillover to the next city or to the next town. We want to look for land near to schools, near a developing town, because when a town is developing, that drives the price of land and houses higher, close to hospitals. anywhere there is potential to grow, for a growing city or a growing town. And then when we think about land, we check for municipal amenities. And when I talk about municipal amenities, I'm talking about water, sewage, and this sometimes gets tricky, because if you don't have municipal water, then you have to think about a well. If you don't have municipal septic system, then a sewer, then you have to think about a septic system. So this is where we check for municipal amenities. And there are other things that we can get into when we're talking about land. We look for things like easements, and you can talk to the relevant authorities. We can do PID searches, and you can find out so much information about a piece of land. An easement, and we always say an easement, it cannot be bought or sold. But then we look, what is an easement? An easement is the right to enjoy, the right to enjoy is a right that is enjoyed by one landowner of another for a special purpose. An easement can be attached to the land and transferred with ownership, meaning that an easement will always be an easement. It runs with the land, so it applies to future owners as well. So there are common law easement, which this is broken down into two segments. There is the dominant estate, the land benefiting from the easement, and then there is the servient estate, the land that is burdened by the estate. For example, if a water line or a power line is run, let's do water line, is run through a property. It may run at the end of one of two, or the middle of two property. So one person may benefit from it and the other person may get less benefit from it. So we said they are burdened by it. Then there is statutory easement. This is created by the authorities. And for things like drainage, sewer line, water line, future light posts or communication posts, railway lines, aircraft passageway, and stuff like that. So this is something that when you do a search, when you do a PID search, and whether it's your realtor doing this search or your lawyer doing this search, these are things that you can find when you're looking at investing in land. So it's not as easy as your neighbor has a piece of land. I like it, my neighbor is selling it, and I'm gonna buy it. These are things that need to be investigated before you take that ultimate decision. Any questions here? Okay, so we're on to the type of ownership. There is fee simple, which we enjoy every day. Most properties are fee simple. The right to possess, enjoy, sell It is the highest form of ownership. You have complete ownership and the right over that property, so you can do anything you want with it. Then there is leasehold. This is only for a specific time, but not outright ownership, especially of the land. You may have a house on that is a leasehold. You own the actual property, but you do not own the land that the building sits on. So if you need to sell that property, then you have to sell that property, and the buyer now has to do a new lease for that land. So it's not just as simple as your fee simple where you can just sell your house and the house comes with the land. And there is also time sharing where there are multiple owners holding a title or a leasehold right to each unit or to a particular unit for a number of weeks or a week or a number of weeks, like a vacation property. And a lot of people invest in this because they get away 2 weeks for the winter, and now it's now easier for them. It's more cost effective for them to go and enjoy a vacation. This takes me to my last slide, and there is a quote that I've always lived by, and I'll just leave you with this quote. The rest of your life can be the best of your life. Never limit yourself. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
All right. Okay, since you're from Jamaica, you can relate to the question. So, in Jamaica, it's easier to buy land and build your house. It's cheaper than to buy a land and build your house than to buy a house. How does that differ in Canada?
It doesn't differ much. If you have your land, you can get your plans drawn, you can apply for your own permits, you can get a builder to build your house, or if you're a builder, you could build your house. The same process that you go through, every step you have to get that house inspected. So there is nothing illegal about it. There's no shortcuts that you can take. So it is, and it is a viable option. And the first time, personally, the first time I've actually had a house built or built a house, I had no idea that I had no idea of the process, but I had no idea that it would be that financially rewarding, as also I get to customize it. I get to do all of the things I want to do with it and all the little features that you want to add to it. So it's not a hard process.
Okay, and would the same concept work for like an apartment complex?
Yes, it works for, it's a building, it's a property, it's a building. You, as I said, you get your permits, you have your builder, you have to submit the necessary documents. One thing I'd like to point out though, there are different zonings when it comes to building, say, apartment complex versus a single family home or a duplex. So there is the zoning authority. There is also a zoning map. and there is so much information at our fingertips. There is a zoning map, and you can go on that zoning map and you can type in your PID or your address, and that will tell you what zone you're in and what you can build in that zone. Because there are some areas, some that you can only build a single family home. There are some areas that you can build a two-family dwelling, and there are areas which you build a multi-unit dwelling, which we call RM1 or RM2.
Okay, and my final question is in Jamaica, if you pay off all your property taxes, you own that land. Does it work over in Canada the same?
I'm not sure if in Jamaica it's your property. It works the same. I remember in Jamaica, all of my document says Her Majesty's land. It is your property and you have a right to sell. It's like your fee simple. You have the right to possess it, enjoy it, sell it. You have that right to do it here as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any other question? Any question in the chat?
No, none in the chat.
Hey, Wendy, as it relates to the land purchase, I heard you mention that determine the next city that will be used for building, the next developing city. Is that something that the realtor would assess the buyer and determine?
Yes, yes. And sometimes it's just a matter of you'll see a subdivision going up, or you'll know there's a subdivision going up in that area. And that is something that we can help with also. Sometimes we have first-hand knowledge that there is a developer wanting to develop in this area. Or even sometimes if the realtor is a developer. So yes, sometimes we know what is being developed in that area or in the next area. Or I love to drive, and I always take a drive, and I'll go from a town, I'll look at a town and I'll see it. I like the area, but if I don't want to be in that town, is it a good investment? I drive a little bit further or drive to the next town, and I'll look around to see what amenities are there. And that is how you get your clue. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank you again. Thanks for having me this evening. And I'm available. Give me a call, send me an email. I'm always available to talk real estate. That is my passion. All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate you coming in out and supporting the session. We look forward to seeing you next week when we'll have the insurance advisor on as well. So please share the link with everyone and share it with your friends. And thank you so much for supporting the program. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you.